You're watching Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. I am Tamara Scott. This is the Tamara Scott Show, where we help you live God's word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Why? Because if he expects you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it somewhere in his word. Now, we do watch the headlines, but we don't get caught up in them because we learned, if nothing else, from 2020, if they can keep us frightened, if they can keep us fearful, if they can keep us vulnerable, they can make us malleable. So we focus on what you need to do for your family, for your future, what's best for you. We bring you information, sometimes from experts across the globe, sometimes from those who have experienced a great information now and maybe across your backyard fence. You just never know who might have the information you need. And it's our joy to get to bring it to you every day, Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time on WVWTV.com, where if you become a member of the foundation, the Vault, you can go to Worldview Foundation, worldviewfoundation.com/vault, and you get all of Brannon's materials, presentations, interviews for 35 plus years, and you get this show. So we thank those of you who do that as well. All right, I'm going to jump right to it. We talked about the headlines just ever so briefly, but I haven't mentioned them yet. I'm going to jump right to our first guest, is Alex Newman. You all know Alex Newman. Many of us watch Alex Newman. We listen for information for Alex Newman. We trust Alex Newman. So we're thrilled to have him. He is a senior editor at the New American Magazine. He's also with the Sentinel Report. You might get that. And his website is called libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. Alex, I hope I did that correctly, and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and that was perfect. Thank you, Tamara.
Absolutely. All right, so people are chattering. I could have done the headlines, the chatter that the one big beautiful bill passed, or that America First again, or America's back. Now, we warned about the bill yesterday because there were concerns for property rights for those of us who are fighting a CO2 pipeline here in the Midwest. Great concern. I'll talk about that perhaps a little bit more later, but from what I understand, that portion was pulled. The portion that Congressman King warned our viewers about, Representative John Hanson, Speaker of the South Dakota House, and Speaker Pro Tem, Representative Carla Lims came on yesterday. We think that was pulled. I'm not sure, but I hear the pay for play, the $10 million permit was pulled. I hope so. We can talk about that later. And as people are cheering, you still have concerns. And the bill's not done yet. It's got to go through the Senate, which is not always workable. So we'll see. Your concern is what for our viewers?
Well, thank you, Tamara. I really appreciate it. And of course, I share those concerns in a major way about the restrictions on the ability of state and local governments to rein in some of this crazy carbon capture pipeline nonsense. Folks, it's a massive scam. And it's not just about stealing your land. It's not just about usurping more of our freedom. I believe this is an anti-human agenda. I've got quite a few concerns about the bill, Tamara, not least that it continues spending money at outrageous levels. But one thing in particular that I have zeroed in on, and as you know, Tamara, education is kind of my passion because I believe it's the issue that transcends all the others. There's a little provision in the House bill that was buried deep in there, page 784. And I want to just read it. It's obviously written in legalese. I'll explain it in just a moment. But folks, this is really, really dangerous to the independence of Christian schools, to the liberties of homeschooling parents. And so here's what it says. Tax credits for contributions to scholarship granting organizations. Such term shall include expenses for the purposes described in subparagraph A through H in connection with a homeschool, whether treated as a homeschool or a private school for purposes of state law. No amount paid to an elementary or secondary school shall be considered a qualified elementary or secondary education expense for the purposes of this section unless such school demonstrates that it maintains a policy whereby its admissions standards do not take into account whether the student seeking enrollment has a current individualized education plan, nor takes into account that the student requires equitable services for a learning disability. And if a student does have such an individualized education plan, the school abides by the plan's terms and provides services outlined therein. So this is a very troubling provision, Tamara, because what it will do is it will put the federal camel nose under the tent of private schools. And this may seem like a small requirement. If you've got a student with an IEP, you need a little bit of background here. An IEP is a specialized plan that the government school system develops for children who have disabilities or who are alleged to have disabilities. It's very profitable to find more and more students with disabilities because then the Medicaid funding comes in, you get all the drugs, Big Pharma loves it. So there's a lot going on here. But essentially, this is a federal mandate. Comes through a number of different federal statutes, including the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. And what this will do is it will force any private school, any Christian school, any home school that decides to accept some of this school choice money will force them to comply with these federal statutes. And again, that's just the camel's nose under the tent. Once they have this, it will open the door wide to all kinds of future mandates. We know we'll end up with another deep state Democrat puppet in the White House someday. They'll say, well, you're taking money, you got to do this, that, and the other. So this is very, very troubling. And what the IEPs can do is they can open, and a friend of mine in Tennessee is the one who actually found this and alerted us, but we've alerted a lot of other people now in the meantime. What this will do is it will kick open the door of private schools for Medicaid expansion, which means there will be a financial incentive there to start diagnosing kids with ADD, with all kinds of disabilities, and that will open up then the federal funding spigot where the kids will be prescribed drugs, they'll have federally funded counselors, things like this, and that moves us very rapidly into what these people call the whole school, whole child, whole community model, where your school essentially becomes a healthcare provider that oversees every element of your child's development. So long story short, Tamara, I know that was, unfortunately, it's a very complex issue, so I had to give a long explanation. But what it does is it increasingly blurs the lines between private and public schools. And I don't think this is Trump's intention. I actually spoke with some of the people involved in the behind-the-scenes negotiation. I was told this was added in by one member in the House, and they're hoping to get it out in the Senate. But it's a very, very troubling provision. And folks, this is a shot across the bow. They fully intend to take over our private schools, our Christian schools, and our homeschools.
I appreciate what you said. We don't think this is Trump. There are a lot of hands involved when you're doing something this large, this big, and which is why I have concerns about big, beautiful bills, bloated or otherwise.
Yes.
But this is part of the concern. And even though many of us trust Trump and we appreciate his leadership, not everybody in the boat is always rowing the same direction. Or
Right.
even if they're well-intended, they have their own ideas. And so you didn't list who it was. I won't ask you on air who it was, but we're all curious. And so if one person put it in, golly, maybe we can get it out in the Senate. So 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121 is the Capitol switchboard in DC. Get you anywhere you need to go as far as Senate or House. We tell you to keep it on your fridge, keep it in your phone, wherever you need it, because we live in a republic, which is the few watched by the many. And we need to be watching, and we need to be holding them accountable. It could be yet a good bill. Thomas Massie is concerned with a lot of the spending. Some are concerned they don't see a tax cut or no tax on Social Security. I haven't looked into that one myself. If we could get some of those fixed before we go to the Senate. I'm thrilled that supposedly the property rights concern, the states' right concern is out. I'm hoping the $10 million pay for play permit is out. But is your voicing concern on the education protection? And Alex, we've already seen this on our news, local news in my little town here in Iowa. They're promoting the fact that the health mobile will come to your school now and help with school physicals and help with vaccinations. We now have the case out of, was it Tennessee, where the 14-year-old said, I don't want the vaccination, and they forced him to have it anyway, now in a lawsuit. We know this is the case. We've seen this for 25 years or more with their own wording, politicians and the administration members in the public education. So this is not just a concern. You have reason to be concerned. All right, tell our viewers, where can they find more information from you that they could pass along to their friends or their elected officials?
Thank you so much, Tamara. There's a lot of people who are concerned about this. I serve as a fellow at Classical Conversations. I actually have my kids enrolled there. It's the nation's largest homeschooling alliance. And so we're working hard on this. I also serve on the board of the Freedom Project Academy, online K through 12 Christian school. And by the way, neither of those institutions accept government money exactly for this reason, right? It's not just that they want to medicate your kids and do the mental health stuff. They also want to control what is taught, how it is taught. They want all the data on your kids. So this isn't an issue that like we can just deal with it now and then forget about it. This is going to be an ongoing struggle to preserve our liberties. So I would encourage people, make sure you're staying up to date on this information. Keep tuning in to the Tamara Scott Show. Keep tuning in to Worldview Weekend. They actually broadcast my show, The Sentinel Report, where we constantly bring these kinds of updates. You can sign up for our free newsletter at libertysentinel.org. And also you can get the free daily headlines from The New American at thenewamerican.com, even if you don't subscribe to the print version of the magazine. And we will keep folks updated on all of this stuff and so much more. And Tamara, thank you for sounding the alarm on these issues. It's really, really appreciated. God bless you.
Thank you for giving us information to understand. There's just so much in here. It takes several of us in our areas to bring it all about. So thank you for being that sentinel, that watchman on the wall, Alex. We appreciate you so much, and we can trust you. That we appreciate as well. And folks, if you're not getting that New American magazine, I highly recommend it. It is just done so well. And it's one of the rare color print magazines that you can plan on and depend on yet in today's world. So Alex, thank you so much. Blessings to you, my friend. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And as we honor those who gave it all to preserve our liberty, and then your family and your friends. Bless your friend.
Thank you. God bless you too.
To everybody out there, we're going to tell you real quickly before we go to our break about our Bella Grace. You can go to Tamara, Tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, Tamara, Tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, where you can find this product. It looks like a pretty little beauty product in a pretty little package, and it is, but it's also a serious health supplement. In here is the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw together. They are showing great rewards and great results for folks. The best are what we hear from you. You can go to the website, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, see before and after photos, hear informational videos, hear what others are saying, and maybe even some clinical reports. But some of you, these are folks like you who have noticed this. This is not FDA approved. These are not advertising statements. This is what you noticed. Better joint health and improved mobility, improved immunity, stress management, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. What I noticed, but I didn't realize it was tied to this product until some of you said so, was less eye strain and fatigue, computer vision syndrome being better, visual acuity and depth perception being enhanced, and alleviating dry eyes. I realized it, but I was trying to think what was making the difference until some of you noticed it as well. And that's with this little sachet of the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. The other fun things are the firmer, smoother skin, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, more even skin tone, better skin hydration, oxidative stress is reduced, healthier nails, better health, less cellulite, who doesn't want that, and better sleep. But again, it's just overall helps boost you. And I think it helps you just be your best, which is why we offer it, because we want you on the front line fighting with us for our freedoms and our families. Now, before we go to break, I think I have a minute too. So I'm going to also then just run through, as I said, a couple of those headlines. We're very, very blessed that in this bill, we think the property rights, the states' rights were pulled out. That went against states' rights, that went against the constitutional protection for states' rights and property rights, that gave cushion to private corporate, the $10 million permit for a license. We've got to see on that one. I think it's been pulled out from what I was told. Also, if you want to show photo 2 very quickly, photo 2 is the Planned Parenthood funding was cut in the OBBB. Thank you. That's a great photo right there. The House passes the big, beautiful bill. Pro-life advocates applaud the cuts to Planned Parenthood funding. So that's very hopeful. That's great news. I don't know if you've got that on the screen or not, but that is great news. And then, and just so you know, they're saying the 217 tax cuts were also, I think, made permanent through this bill. We've got to get it through the Senate, and it cuts 1.5 trillion in spending, including hundreds of billions of dollars to cuts to Medicaid and supplemental nutrition assistance programs. Now, people are going to balk about that, but let's figure out what it is first before we balk, because it might be some of the fraud and waste that we were talking about. But otherwise, I think it is Kristen Hawkins says this is a historic win for pro-life Americans, children in the womb, as Planned Parenthood and big abortion has been cut out of the big, beautiful bill and has been told to go fund themselves. That's kind of a funny way to say it. Go fund themselves. 50 States Grassroots Network will now turn their attention at Students for Life to the U.S. Senate, asking them to put life-saving care over the interest of the abortion lobby. And then Marjorie Danisfelser also is very, very happy, said today Congress took a big step towards stopping forced taxpayer funding of big abortion industry. It's a crucial win in the fight against America's #1 cause of death, abortion, and against waste and corruption. That was Marjorie Danisfelser from SBA. All right, we'll go to our break. We'll be right back with Greg Dumas. We've had him on the show before. You may not remember, but it's very timely as we're all going to be talking about Memorial Day in the next weekend. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
And thank you for staying tuned with us. It is the Tamara Scott Show, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. One more headline I'm going to hit real quickly before we get to part 2 of our show. And this is photo 3, Reagan. If you want to put up photo 3, again, Christian Broadcasting Network has the same photo that we just showed on the budget of the OBBB. But this is another headline off of their website. Israeli embassy staff members killed in D.C. This was just yesterday. Look at this beautiful couple. They both worked at the embassy and they were enjoying an event at a museum nearby, a Jewish museum, and a gunman literally just gunned them down. Supposedly, as you see in the comment there, his comments were, "I did this for Gaza." He was yelling, "Free Palestine, free Palestine." A woman offered the alleged gunman water. She didn't realize the crime that had been committed, she said, and she just offered him water. But it was this is tragically sad. This couple, as I said, both staff members at the embassy were to announce their engagement next week in Jerusalem. The hope, the love, the promise, gone for 2 families, gone. Another whole family that could have been, would have been brought forward with this couple will no longer be there. It's wiped out. A whole lineage is wiped out because of someone's anger, because of someone's hate, because of that propaganda that we hear so often in the headlines. And so I had a Jewish friend call me today, just distraught. She was not very far away from this at the time. And she said, you know, they keep telling us to coexist. And I said, you cannot coexist with people who don't want you to exist. It's as simple as that. That's what we're dealing with right now. So I just want to just bring that to your attention. And this is why we talk about stopping what we hear on the college campuses that is just so hateful. We get freedom of speech, but some of what we're hearing, there is a dangerous motive behind it. And along with freedom of speech, yes, you can have it, but you also, you know, it doesn't allow you to have pornography in public, right? In certain areas, doesn't allow that for the good of the community, for what is right, for what is proper. Whatever law we have needs to honor the biblical Judeo-Christian foundations of our nation if we are to prosper. That it's as simple as that. America's not great because God doesn't bless America because she's great. America's great because God's blessed her. That's simple. All right. So we're heading into Memorial Weekend. And for many of you, it's the official start of summer. When I was on radio 20 some years ago, I thought we've got to get back to the real meaning of Memorial Day. It's not just the parade and now you can wear white shoes or your shorts or you have a barbecue. It's so much more, right? And so let me just read you this very quick. This was on Facebook from a VFW post. I believe it was 10/40/4/20. Monday will be the most expensive holiday on the calendar. Every hot dog, every burger, every spin around the lake or drink with friends and family is a debt purchased by others. This is not all about who served. That day comes in the fall. This one is in honor of those who paid in life and blood, whose moms never saw them again, whose dads wept in private, whose wives raised kids alone, and whose kids only remembered them from pictures. This isn't simply a day off. This is a day to remember that others paid for every free breath you ever get to take. Freedom. All right, so my guest is Craig Dumas, and is helping us remember those who preserved our liberty. I won't say they gave it to us because our liberty comes from Jesus Christ, 2 Corinthians 3:17. It's the essence of our declaration. But it takes a constitution to uphold it and a military to preserve it. And so, Craig, welcome to the Tamara Scott Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was so well said. I don't know that you need me to speak.
I didn't write that. Somebody else did. I just read it. So you're right. It just says it all so well without getting deep and heavy. It just says it all so well. But you, my friend, are doing a lot to help us remember those who gave their all for us. As I said earlier, it's a blank check they wrote, not knowing the price, the ultimate price that they wrote that check with their own blood, literally, to preserve our liberty. All right. So the group you're with is called Hero Cards, herocards.org, correct?
Well, it's herocards.us or or gratefulnation.us. This past year, we changed our name because we didn't want to just be about the cards. We changed our name as a nonprofit to the Grateful Nation Project because that name has right in it the mission that we're on, and that is to produce a grateful nation.
I think that was a wise decision because it allows you to encompass so much more. And we'll talk about the hero cards, but being grateful is absolutely key. And so since you were on with us, I think about a year ago, did we have you on?
Yep.
You are now a 501c3?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Congratulations and very good on that. Reagan, if we can show the logo, photo 1 is their logo, Hero Cards, very well done. Honoring those who gave the last fall full measure of devotion. All right, so tell us a little bit about the hero. Well, do you want to go to Hero Cards? Do you want to go to Grateful Nation? It's up to you.
Either one. Hero Cards are really that is the product that we put into schools and homes across the country. And the Grateful Nation is the name of the nonprofit organization. So they're both valid. What we're doing as the Grateful Nation Project is we are gathering and preserving and sharing the stories of any U.S. service member who didn't make it home. And that's from Revolutionary War to the present day. And we're delivering those to Americans in a format that's a bit more approachable, I would say, than a history book would be, especially for younger people. And so we do that in the form of hero cards that each contain an image of that fallen service member on the front. And then on the back, there's a few details about that individual. And we're careful not to write these as obituaries, but rather as I guess you could think of it as a history textbook entry about that person. And so it goes into a little bit of detail about what their life was about, where they were born, their hometown, anything that we can glean from their pre-military history. And then it goes into their military journey and, of course, how they were lost. But what we're doing here is we're making it an approachable format because kids and really adults even, they'll take that card and they'll look on the back and they'll see a few details. And if that's as far as they go, that's fine. At least they've been introduced to someone who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. But if they want to, there's a number in the corner, and you can see it highlighted in red there. that leads to their biography online. And it's not just a biography, but if you look within any of these fairly short stories, you're going to see links to other things. So if the term Navy SEAL is there, or Al Qaeda, or ISIS, or even September 11, we don't assume that kids know what that is. So those will be links to um, National World War II Museum or History Channel, something that will explain what that term means. So the idea here is that it's very hierarchical. A person can dig in as deeply as they want. And I don't show it in any of these pictures, but in the stories, if you scroll all the way down, that will lead to the sources that we use to verify all the details in the story. So someone who has an interest can really dig pretty far.
So how many cards do you think you have available now?
Well, we're only in our second school year, and right now there are 240 printed cards. There's another 24. I think we have 5 or 6 more stories to write before we go to the printer again for another 24. But we're adding all the time, and we should have more in the next month or so.
So these aren't just people who serve, veterans who have passed away. These are people who didn't come home.
Right. The criterion is that they have to have lost their life while they were in service. And so that seems like kind of a harsh cutoff, but that gives us between 1.2 and 1.3 million stories to do. And so it's quite a large mission. It won't be accomplished in our lifetimes, but we do one story today and we get up tomorrow and do another one. Um, if we were to include all veterans, that would be just too big to bite off, really. Maybe one day we'll grow enough that we could do that. We could consider that. But for now, it's lost their life while in service. And it doesn't have to be a combat death. There are a lot of soldiers who died of smallpox, for instance, or training accidents, or even suicides. If they were in service and they lost their life, then we'll do a story and a card.
Because even being in service, people might question the suicide issue, but if you're in service and it's such a task on you, such a heavy task on you that that is the case, then I guess thank you for
Sure.
helping.
Yeah, and I want to clarify too that of course we consider anybody who served to be a hero. And they put their name on the line, whether they were drafted or enlisted. They put their name down and they left home. They left home cooked meals. They left job, family, girlfriends, boyfriends, knowing that it might cost them their life. So every single one of them is a hero in my book, however they were assigned. But we want to focus on those who didn't make it back.
Absolutely. And as I said a little bit earlier, they wrote the check in blood, right? They
Right.
write a
Right.
blank, check, not knowing what it's going to be in blood. All right. So we've got maybe just a couple minutes before we go to our next break. Are you in schools? Are you getting these into educational areas?
Sure, we are, and actually, I'm hoping your listeners can help us do more of that. But we're currently finishing up the second school year. We're in 10 schools in 10 states. Um, and this is not limited to schools. People can buy the cards for their homes, for their soccer teams, whatever they want to do. But we are primarily focused on getting them into schools. And schools handle them in a lot of different ways. Some schools will uh, use it as a supplement to their history or social studies curriculum. Others will use it for, if you want to do it simply, you can use it for one-off events like a Veterans Day assembly or a Memorial Day assembly. And we're getting just great feedback that these are so well received by kids. I had one local Christian school teacher tell me that he brought these out during the last 2 weeks of school when it's very hard to engage students. And this was the only thing that engaged them in those 2 weeks. And he also said that he did it the hour before lunch, and they didn't want to leave for lunch. They wanted to keep looking through their hero's story.
Goodness. Wow. So you're teaching the next generation how to connect with generations behind them. It's just,
Right.
it's a great idea. I don't know how you came up with it other than being anointed, maybe. But thank you for doing this. All right, we're going to be right back. We've got to go to our next commercial here. But Craig Dumez, DU space MEZ is my guest today. And the website where you can find more information is herocards.us or Grateful Nation. And Grateful Nation is .us as well, right, Craig?
That's correct. They both go to the same place.
Excellent. Okay, everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more because there's more. It's a great idea, but we can't leave it there. We've got to see how we can help. Many of you can help, and let's talk about that, not just financially, but what schools do you know? What homeschool co-ops do you know? And what more might we learn from Craig on a couple of these stories? Stay tuned as we talk about Memorial Day, the real meaning behind the holiday.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right. And we also offer you Newman. We offer you some of these products, and we may even be bringing some more on because we know you all respond differently. You all have individual taste and ways and things that work for you and others don't. So we want to make it as successful or as accessible for you to be successful. So this is Newman, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS. This I do use. I do appreciate my Bella Grace. I do appreciate. We may have to offer some that I don't use, right? In the future that may work for some of you, but both of these I do use. Now, I got off track with all the family issues we've had lately and the schedules we've had. As you know, we had 2 family members with emergency health care. And so I just have been very, very busy in that. And I can feel it. I can feel that I'm missing my own. So I'll get back on schedule with both of these and with my my Bella Grace. So Newman, neumi.com/TTSS. This is the lavender for ladies. Thank you, Reagan. That's a great photo to put up. The lavender is for ladies. It doesn't have any hormonal supplements in it, but if you are on such, you might want to check with your doctor just to be sure. And then the blue is for everybody over 18. This has the glutathione. Glutathione is apparently incredibly important. If you're an oxygen-based life form, you would not survive 3 to 7 minutes without it. It also detoxes, and that's where we really find the help today. It detoxes heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, something that you will recognize after 2020. And so it helps detox graphene oxide as well as glyphosate. So the good glutathione helps detox glyphosate, which is in ag chemicals. Many of you may recognize the name, something you may even spray on your yard, but people are concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. So that is very helpful with this, helping detox. People get IVs. I was watching one of those sponsored ads on social media last night about a glutathione IV. I'm going to call and see how much it is because I hear it's expensive. This is a much more consistent way to get it, keep it in your system, and it's less expensive, I would pretty much guarantee. Now, the other is the orange or the mango bottle that was in your photo there. That's the Newman Neuro. Newman Neuro helps with mind, memory, and focus. Newman Neuro. When used with the blue together, the results were so good that the American Brain Council actually wrote an endorsement. So I guess that doesn't happen very often. You want more information? You can go to neumi.com/TTSS. And the Newman Skin, I'm hearing, is excellent. I've not tried it yet, but I'm hearing from some of you that it is excellent. All right, so we tell you this because we want you feeling your best. Both of those that I showed you and the one on the screen are swish and swallows. You swish for 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever you're comfortable doing, and then swallow. And it just helps you boost a little bit. We want you feeling your best, joining us on the front lines. All right, Craig Dumez. We are talking about herocards.us. gratefulnation.us. It is Memorial Day weekend. This seems incredibly appropriate. Memorial Day weekend, if folks want to look at the history I put on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page, several links to the history of Memorial Day, some of them more serious from the History Channel, others a little more fun from Country Living. But this was started by a Logan, I think was his name, Logan, when the GRA, the Grand Army for the Republic, I think. And I think I'm going to be decorating a grave this weekend with the GAR, a symbol on it, one of my own family members. All right, so Craig, I mean, honestly, how did you come up with this? How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I would like to say that I came up with the idea, but I didn't. I have a colleague who is, he's currently a lieutenant colonel in the Army and he served in Iraq. He was also a Wisconsin state senator. And he had to walk in Memorial Day parades. We have a fairly large one here in Wisconsin. And he would be handing out Milwaukee Brewer schedules or candy to the kids. And he personally lost some teammates in Iraq, and it really troubled him. He wanted to, as you talked about at the top of the show, he wanted to refocus kids on what Memorial Day is supposed to be about. And so he asked me, I have a print and design background. He asked me to help create some baseball card like collector cards that kids could collect and read about these people. So I brought it up a notch and suggested that we also put their stories online, and that's the thing that's proving to be useful in schools. So yeah, it was his idea originally. I just recognized it as a really good one.
So a couple of those cards, do you want to talk about the stories on a couple of those cards? Are they personalized, right? Take us through. Which one would you like to start with, John?
Well, we do all eras. So if you want to start with John Rossbrook.
Reagan, can you put, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, and I chose him, and you can kind of get the idea there, the front of the card, the back of the card, and the online story. Um, I chose him because he's a good example of when we don't have an image of a soldier. We have to come up with something. So I'm not ashamed to say that we use AI and we use Photoshop and we use artists to create a card that depicts that person. And then we're careful to say that this is an artist's impression. In that era, only the wealthiest people had oil paintings done. It was pre-photography. And so we try to include details that we know about the person. As an example, he was the very first Army chaplain to be lost while in service. And so he has a Bible in his hands. He was lost when he was captured by Tory sympathizers as he went looking for his horse. So we knew he rode a horse, and we knew that he was with the Northampton County, Pennsylvania militia, so we could look up what colors they wore. We knew it happened in New England in November, so you can see the sky and the trees are like that. So all those details are put in there. If they're holding weaponry, it's appropriate to the time. If they have a uniform, it's appropriate to the rank. And so we do our best when we don't have anything to go with visually, but then the story we can still tell. And he's a very, very interesting story. He was captured and killed. And there are some historians who speculate that because he was a clergyman, he may have been confused for Reverend John Witherspoon, who was a signer of the Declaration. And so some think that that's why he was actually murdered. He wasn't killed in battle, but he was killed by Tory sympathizers and British soldiers. And so that's an example of Revolutionary War or Continental Army. And then if we move to we have a World War II hero here, and this one has a famous name. We don't just do famous people, we do everybody. But Theodore Roosevelt Jr. is the eldest son of President Teddy Roosevelt. And he's an interesting story in his own right. He had a big name to live up to, and it was injured in World War I. And then became Secretary of the Navy and Governor of Puerto Rico, Governor of the Philippines. And he ended up being the oldest person to storm the beaches of Normandy. We have the anniversary of the D-Day invasion, Operation Overlord, coming up on June 6th. He was the oldest person. And because of his injuries in World War I, he walked with a limp. He had a cane. And so he stormed the Utah beach with just his cane and a pistol. And he was the first one off the boat and was urging on his soldiers to fight the fight, and ended up being awarded the Medal of Honor. He survived the D-Day invasion, but died a little bit later in France from illness. So I would say he lived up to his family name, and I can't escape the irony of his father being famous for saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." And here's a guy who invaded Europe with a cane.
That's wow. How old was he when he did pass away?
I believe 56.
Not that old by today's standards, not that old. All
Mm,
right. So you say that if they're serving, so was he still serving in the military at the point when
yes,
he passed away, even though it wasn't in a military battle?
right, right. Mhm.
Excellent. All right. Do you have one more you want to share with us?
Yeah, I chose another one that's more contemporary just to speak a little bit about what we do with people who were lost more recently. Um, when they have family members still living, we want to make sure that we don't surprise the family. So we aren't going to put any out there without checking with the family first, making sure that they're not only on board, but helping us verify details and things like that. So it's only if they want this done that we would put somebody more recent. So sometimes we'll have someone who served with a person or they know about somebody in their community and they submit them as a hero. We ask them to help connect us to the family and make sure that we're doing it the right way in a dignified way. So yeah, this is Shannon Mary Kent, and she was lost in the Afghanistan war, and it would take me about 2 hours to tell you her story. So I really would encourage people to go look at herocards.us/hero20, and that'll get you her story. But she is just an amazing woman. She's one of these people who always had high goals and always reached them. And I don't want to get the number wrong, but I believe she was a linguist and a cryptologist, and she spoke, I think, nine deployments, 7 different languages. Um, and being a linguist in the military is not just about knowing the language. It's about understanding cultural references and things like that, being able to interpret uh, communications that come in from different places that you're monitoring. And she was a mother of 2 sons. Her husband is Joe Kent, who recently ran for Congress in Washington State, and her story is quite amazing. So I'd encourage your listeners to go and check that out.
Wow. And so the beauty of this is then even when you get these into the classroom or the homeschooling rooms, it's not just boys that people are going to read about, women too.
Well, and that's the thing. It's male, female, it's rich, poor, it's black, white, brown, it's everything. The military has a lot to teach our society and culture about diversity. And we don't ever talk about diversity on our website. It's there. It's just obvious what America is. It is a melting pot. And the people who died to keep us free all had American blood running through their veins. And that's what makes them. You look at John Rossborough to Shannon Kent, they had the same cause. They fought for the same thing, even though they're separated by a couple of centuries and came about in wildly different cultures.
All right. So if somebody wanted to help get these into a school, I know when my kids were still in public school, we did
Mhm.
put them out. But when they were still in public school, they had these box sets that you would have like a reading, like these cards, and you'd
Mhm.
have a reading thing, and then you would do a quiz on what you read. And when you'd go to the next one and go to the next level. And they bought these terrible sets were all about pop stars and movie stars and singers that I did not want my kids talking about or knowing. And one of them was, I can't remember his name right now, but the movie came out, The Spy Who Shagged Me. And all these fourth graders wanted to go see this movie because they'd read about him on the card. And
Mhm.
I wasn't going to let my kids go to see that movie at all. And I'm glad I didn't, from what I hear. So we went and bought another set of cards, gave it to the school, donated it to the school because it had historical figures in it. It had people who had done, good things,
Right.
accomplishments. So this would be a great thing that someone, I would guess, if someone, is it possible for somebody to say, I would like to buy a box and donate it to a classroom?
It is. That's exactly the idea. We have sponsorships, and that's tax deductible as a donation. And people can just send us a check as a donation. That's fine. Of course, it helps us do what we do. But what we really want to do is get these cards into students' hands. and there's a limit to how many schools we can reach. So if you could help with, every person in America lives in a school district. If you could help us to connect with teachers and school boards and curriculum committees in your local area, get a sample, bring it in, say, hey, I'd love to see this. Or if you're part of a military veterans organization or a civic organization, this is a great thing to approach a school and say, hey, we'd like to hand these out. And I should point out too that in these stories, we don't deify these people. What we're trying to get across is that these are real people with real families. They're just like you. And, we talked about Shannon Kent very briefly, but I wish that I could share, and I don't have their permission to do it, but I wish that I could share the reactions that we get from Gold Star families when they know that their loved one is being talked about in schools and that this card and this story are going to exist long after we do. And Americans will still be looking at their loved one's story and saying, this is someone who gave everything so I could be free. It means so much to those families. And for them, there's always a lot of attention around losing a military service member the year that it happens, maybe a few years after.
So can I put a pause right there? I don't know if this is appropriate time right now, but we've got to go to break.
Sure.
And I want to come back. This gives us time to talk about it in our last segment. And so that way we won't be so chopped up in that last segment. But stay tuned, because I think what you're going to want to hear, what he's going to say, you're going to want to hear. I think this is incredibly moving and a great idea on so many levels. Talking with Craig Dumez, herocards.us, gratefulnation.us. I think churches should have these too, just saying. All right, we'll be right back. I am talking with Craig Dumez. We're talking about herocards.us, gratefulnation.us, talking about individual lives, people who just volunteered or were drafted, served their nation, and gave all they had. And now we're helping to keep that memory, that honor alive for those who enjoy that freedom and liberty today by those who gave their all to preserve it. Craig, you were about to talk about a little bit of a story, and I had to interrupt you, so let me allow you to go back to that.
Sure. Now we were talking about what this means to the Gold Star families, and for most of them, it's such a comfort to know that their loved one is not going to end up being just a name on a headstone or a line on a report. After a few years, it could easily happen that the rest of the country just kind of forgets about it. And we like to say never forget, especially on Memorial Day, but to actually do something about that, to say, no, this is what we're doing to not forget, and to introduce your loved one to kids and let them know what he did for them or she did for them. So their sons and daughters are not only not forgotten, but they're honored, and what they did for us is recognized by a country.
I have your website on my screen right now, and it's just crossing all of the thank yous from Gold Starred wives, from superintendents who talk about how powerful it was. Thank you. This is just such a tremendous blessing on so many levels, for the education that is springing forward, for the closure that or I don't know if we ever have closure, but for the healing that it may have with some of the families.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When I'm hearing you talk about this, I'm thinking, oh, I may know someone
Right.
who may have a story. How do we get that to you? Is there a cost? I'm sure you don't charge the families, but is there a cost when you do a card? What is the cost on that? Is that something we could
Sure.
sponsor? So how first do we get you a story?
There is no cost to anyone for submitting a hero and having the story done. We don't guarantee that we'll do the story because, as I mentioned before, we want to make sure the family is okay with it. Um, and and so we'll work on that story. We don't accept biographies written by other people, mainly because these go into schools. So we have that can be a good starting point for us, but we have to make sure every detail is accurate before we put it into a school. And yeah, if an immediate family member submits a hero, and just to back up a second, on our website, on any page at the top, there's a submit a hero link, and that walks you through the process of what's needed. Um, but if an immediate family member submits a hero, we move them to the front of the line. And then we'll also make some judgment calls if let's say a sibling from World War II submits a hero, we're going to move that to the front of the line too, because we're losing our World War II heroes and their family members. We want to get those in as quickly as we can. Um, so yeah, that's how you can do it. And there's a little bit of a backlog, but it's not too bad. We always can use more heroes. And some communities will say, let's submit a half dozen heroes from our area, and then the school will purchase those, or a sponsor will purchase those for the school.
Yeah, and it's not just schools. I think of clubs, whether it's,
Right.
I, I don't do Girl Scouts, but there are other girl groups out there. There are other, I can't, Trailblazers, I think, Royal Rangers, for the boys. There are other
Sure.
community groups. I think that would be a very good thing for some of these folks to do. Their camps that your kids go to in the summertime. This would be a
Right.
great thing for some of those camps. Uh,
Mhm.
other, what am I not thinking of? Where else could we get these?
Homeschoolers do it. People buy them for their grandkids as a Christmas gift. They come in 12 card packs, and every pack has, well, you can buy them in a number of different ways, but the least expensive is a 12 card pack. And each pack has a variety of eras and military branches, and you can collect them all. One thing I should mention is we don't want these to be like baseball cards. There's more, they have to be more dignified than that. And usually with trading cards, one card becomes more valuable than another because of rarity. And to ensure that that doesn't happen, we always make every card available for the same price all the time, so that these are more like collector cards than trading cards. I don't think most families like the idea of their loved one being traded. So we try to emphasize a more dignified approach than that, even though it's kind of the same format.
If someone wanted to look up a card online, they didn't have the set. They don't want to buy a set, but can they look up cards online?
Sure. Yeah, there's a search field at the bottom of every page, and they can see what cards we have there. And if you know a hero, if you have a relative or someone in your town who served and you don't find them in our archive, then that's time to click the Submit a Hero button.
What if they did a search to see if there was one? If sometimes they get these assignments from the school, write about so-and-so or write about this.
Yeah,
Could they search from a community and say, is there anybody here from Hillsborough, South Carolina, or anything
sure.
like?
That's a good way to search, is on the hometown name. Um, Yeah, or if you know the name, obviously that's a good way to search as well. On the For Schools page, there's a section in there that's called Implementation Suggestions. And it goes through very simple implementation things that take almost no effort onto more robust things like helping to research a hero. So there's something there for everyone, I think.
Everybody out there listening and watching, you may be thinking this doesn't involve me, and I'm telling you, listen up, because somewhere in the next week, somewhere in the next month, something's going to come up, somebody's going to say something, and you're going to cha-ching. And you want to remember Hero Cards US, Grateful Nation US. You may be the one. You may be the one watching this show to help get it into a school system. We all gripe about what our kids are learning in school. What if we offered something like this? You can't blame them for not having good information when you don't get it to them when there's an opportunity. Present it to a board member. Make them tell you no, but get it there. Maybe they'll say yes. I don't know how you say no to this. It's not overtly religious. It's not one way or another. It's just history. It's individual. It's humanity. And so
Mhm.
I just don't know why they would tell you no. Craig, anything you want to say in closing? And I just thank you. This is just such a cool idea.
Thank you. No, that was really well said. And if you're walking around free, you are involved already because that freedom came at a price. And I guess just two things to end on is one other way you can help us in a big way is social media. We don't want to spend a lot of donated dollars on advertising. So follow our sites. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram. And when you see a post, like it, share it. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes just a second. And then the other thing is, this morning I put a promo code Tamara on our online store. So if people want to buy a 12-pack of cards, you get 10% off by using that code through the month of May.
I love that. I love that very much. You all heard that. Promo code Tamara, and then and what do they have? What happens? They get a save?
Yeah, they get 10% off at checkout.
I love that. I love that. My husband will love that. I'm saving other people money. I don't save him money very often, but I'm saving other people that. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much, everybody. What an easy way to do it. What a blessing this that you're offering. Thank you, Craig. Thank you to your partner. I just hope the Lord blesses this. This is just such a nice idea. All right, to everybody, it is Memorial Weekend. And yes, I do want you to go have a wonderfully blessed time with your family and your friends. And we celebrate our freedom, but freedom wasn't free. So don't forget the very day that created this weekend by the very people who gave their lives. And that's the reason we have Memorial Day, those who gave their lives to preserve the freedom that we so enjoy. Craig Dumas, herocards.us. gratefulnation.us, and to everybody out there, remember to keep calling 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Call your senators now. Call your senators and have them take out the concerning part about education. We want to make sure that there is no restraint or strings attached to private education. We're thankful that they took out the concerning part about property rights and states' rights being trampled. Thank you so much for that. Must keep that out. And thank you for defunding abortion. Thank you so much for that. Give them a thanks. Be bright, be brief, be gone. Don't harass them. To everybody out there, live bold, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
2 years ago, whatever was 100% of my traffic to my website, it's been crashed by 95%. That's stunning to me. Mostly Google.